The government-backed report saying the law, as it stands, doesn't deter people from taking drugs. So, should the laws be relaxed? With me now are Niamh Eastwood, who's director of the charity Release, which campaigns for drugs to be decriminalised. And alongside her is Edward Boyd from the Centre for Social Justice. So, Ed, it seemed to suggest that the current system isn't working. What should change then?
One thing that was interesting that emerged today after it being briefed that this report came out and backed decriminalisation, or even maybe legalisation, was actually that the detail was far more refined than that it was actually inconclusive about whether or not this is the best approach. It said it was very difficult to compare different countries, and said that there's mixed results from tougher approaches and softer approaches to drugs. And the thing I think we should be focusing on here is what do we know about the UK? And we know that the public don't back decriminalisation, but really importantly, former addicts, those working with them to rehabilitate them, really don't want to either. And big part of the reason they're worried that it will lead to more people using, more people becoming addicted, and the pain that creates for individuals, their families and their communities.
Just to pick up on that point, Niamh, that Ed made, Jason Sears has got in touch saying politicians should not be the ones debating this. This should be in the hands of genuine scientists, not cherry-picked studies, or indeed people working with drugs users. What do you think?
Well, I think we've had repeated reports from scientists, not least from the former head of the Advisory Council on Misuse of Drugs, Professor Nutt. And also there are several chief executives of drug treatment centres in the South East who support the ending of criminal sanctions for possession offences.
But is it right to compare our country to others? Because we don't drink alcohol like other countries. Do we consume drugs like other countries too?
I think we have to look at the evidence. Yeah, and this report today, it did not make recommendations. I think that's one of the flaws in the report. When this piece of work was set up by the Home Office, very much pushed by the Liberal Democrats, it was determined that there would be no recommendations. So despite what we learnt from other countries, we wouldn't be implementing the potential positive experiences.
We do see with reports that do offer recommendations, they're not always taken up anyway.
I mean, this didn't even have recommendations, it was reflections. But what it did clearly state was that tough sanctions had no impacts on levels of use. So we have a government that is willing to criminalise 70,000 people every year needlessly.
Edward, one of the things that comes out from Portugal, for example, is they did decriminalise possession of drugs, but at the same time they brought in other programmes to deal with people who have problems with it. Is that something else we should be looking at, really?
Absolutely. And this is one of the difficulties, is you can't untangle what effect maybe decriminalisation had in the country with better treatment programmes. But we know from studies that we've done, other people have done as well, that if you can get someone into effective treatment, you can make a massive difference to their life. And if they want recommendations from this report, it should be let's have more abstinence-based, effective treatment to help people tackle their addictions.
You're nodding there, Niamh. Stephen Dickens makes the point, legalise it, clean it up, tax it. Everybody wins. You subscribe to that?
We might have subscribed to the fact that we need to start with, first of all, ending criminal sanctions, and then we should explore the evidence for regulatory models for different drugs. And I think I want to pick up on just two things that Ed has said.
If you would briefly, yeah.
Firstly, we talk about the need for treatment, absolutely, but we have to recognise that 10% of people who use drugs use problematically. The rest use recreationally with no harm to anyone but themselves. The biggest risk they face is criminalisation.
Thank you both very much indeed.
Thank you.